AI was supposed to distribute intelligence, lower the cost of expertise, give a startup in Nairobi the same analytical leverage as an investment bank in New York. For a moment, that premise looked credible. It isn't holding. The more capable AI becomes, the more concentrated its control is. Not through monopoly in the legal sense, through infrastructure, through capital, through the compounding advantage of whoever got there first, and the gap between those inside that position and everyone else is not shrinking, it is widening, quarter by quarter, in ways that are becoming structurally difficult to reverse. This is the consequence that wasn't in the original story. The physical layer is where it starts, and where it is easiest to see. Advanced AI requires a specific class of semiconductor. Chips this complex are dominated by one designer, manufactured at leading-edge scale by one or two fabrication facilities in the world. That concentration was already a structural vulnerability. Over the last 2 years, it became a geopolitical instrument. Since late 2023, the United States has tightened export controls on advanced chips through successive rounds of revision. Each round has gone further. The effect is a tightening framework that effectively creates tiers of access. Countries and entities that can legally obtain frontier compute and those that cannot. The stated rationale is national security. The structural consequence is a global hierarchy of AI capability administered through licensing, with Washington setting the terms. This is why sovereign AI investment has accelerated so sharply in the Gulf. The capital flowing into AI infrastructure across Saudi Arabia and the UAE is not purely commercial. It is a race to secure access before the terms deteriorate further, to get inside the perimeter, while entry is still negotiable. India's push to build domestic semiconductor capacity reflects the same logic. So does the urgency inside the European Union, which is navigating AI regulation, while confronting the reality that it has no frontier model of its own, and no competitive chip industry at scale. These are not technology bets, they are hedges against dependency. Move up one layer, to the models themselves. A small number of private companies, most of them operating within a narrow geography in California, now control the AI systems being embedded into the global economy. Not licensed at arm's length, embedded, hospital networks running diagnostic tools on foundation model infrastructure they cannot audit. Law firms restructuring core workflows around systems they did not build and cannot modify. Government agencies using commercial AI for functions that were previously handled internally. The dependency builds quietly. Each quarter, organizations migrate more internal data into closed systems. They rebuild processes around specific APIs. They train institutional knowledge into proprietary environments. The exit cost rises, not to the point of impossibility, but to the point where extraction becomes a multi-year disruption that most institutions are not positioned to absorb. That is how platform entrenchment has always worked. The geometry is familiar. The speed is not. A government ministry running tax administration or public health systems on foreign AI infrastructure is not simply making a procurement decision. It is operating inside a rule set it did not write, subject to pricing it did not negotiate, dependent on infrastructure it cannot replicate. That is a sovereignty question, presented as a software contract. For a founder building outside major AI hubs, the position is more exposed than it appears. Access to AI tools is relatively cheap. That part of the promise held. But competitive leverage flows upstream toward organizations with direct infrastructure relationships, preferred API access, early capability releases, the ability to build on model layers that are not yet publicly available. Those organizations are not evenly distributed. They are concentrated in the same ecosystems as the companies they depend on. Talent travels, capital moves selectively, but proximity to infrastructure is becoming a structural variable that neither talent nor funding fully compensates for. A well-funded team operating at distance from the frontier is competing against teams for whom the frontier is almost literally across the street. The pattern itself is not new. Infrastructure concentration and power concentration have always moved together. Whoever controlled shipping lanes shaped trade. Whoever owned communications cables influenced information. Whoever built financial clearinghouses set the terms for capital movement. In each case, concentration appeared natural at first, efficient, even necessary. And by the time structural intervention arrived, the dominant players had already converted infrastructure leverage into durable institutional advantage. AI is compressing that cycle. The consolidation that took previous infrastructure monopolies decades is occurring in years. The regulatory environment is not ahead of it. In many jurisdictions, it is not operating at the same speed. The people with the clearest technical view of how these systems function are often embedded within the commercial and financial structures surrounding them. That does not make consolidation irreversible, but it does mean the window for shaping it is narrowing, and narrowing now. The consequence is not concentration in one sector. It is a horizontal layer of structural influence across finance, healthcare, legal systems, logistics, defense, and media, simultaneously, controlled by a small number of entities, deepening with each enterprise contract, each government deployment, each workflow rebuilt around a closed system. Beneath that layer, a divide is forming between economies that build AI and those that license it, between organizations that set the terms and those that accept them, between the frontier and the rest of the world, which consumes it from a position of dependency it may not yet fully recognize. That divide is not theoretical. It is forming now, in procurement decisions, infrastructure contracts, strategic choices being made this year. In the next episode, we look at where that line is being drawn, which countries, which industries, and which populations are being priced out of the frontier, and what happens when that gap stops being temporary and becomes permanent.